and welcome back. Senior Nigerian Democratic Congress (NDC) chieftain Buba Galadima has ignited fresh political controversy after publicly defending Peter Obi against claims linked to one of Nigeria's most painful historical events. Speaking during an interview on Arise Television's prime time program, Galadima argued that Nigerians must stop holding today's political leaders responsible for actions committed decades before many of them were even adults. His comments have reopened an emotional national conversation that refuses to disappear.
Those of us from this part of the country that had supported the Obi Konkoso ticket are being called several different names by ignorant people who have no history of the Nigerian state. If they had what Konkoso said, is not new, because during the First Republic and before the First Republic, before independence, the northern leaders, led by Ahmadu Bello, the Sardauna of Sokoto, Kashim Ibrahim, the former governor of Northern Region, Makaman Bidda, and a host of others had worked together with the NCNC under Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Dr. Endele. Have you heard that name before? M.M. Murphy, and a host of several, Chief Dafa Birie, Chief Melford Okilo, and a host of others to fight for independence. And when 1960 came, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe and Ahmadu Bello teamed up together to rescue power from the colonial masters. And Dr. Azikiwe became the president of Nigeria and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, while Balewa, representing the NPC, became the prime minister and head of government. And at that time, the unity and plurality of government was not in question. There was everybody in that government. Unfortunately, that unity in diversity was truncated in 1996.
You mean 1966?
66.
Yeah.
1966. A lot of people gave it different coloration. I am sure in my mind that nobody would want to destroy his house. Neither Zik, Okpara, Mbadwe, Akiloe, or Akinjide, who are prominent members of that government, wouldn't have advocated for the coming of the military. So if anything had happened, I would rather blame the military than blame civilian members of that government. So the alliance between the Southeast and the North has predated many people that are now active in politics. But because we aligned with Obi, and we have a reason. In politics, you do mathematics, and you calculate. It is our belief that that is the only ticket that can salvage Nigeria.
The question now being asked across the country is simple but deeply decisive. Should history continue to determine who is fit to lead Nigeria, or should the nation judge its leaders by their present actions rather than events of the distant past? Galadima's remarks come at a politically sensitive moment as discussions continue over the possibility of a Peter Obi Rabiu Kwankwaso presidential ticket. He openly admitted that negotiations surrounding the proposed alliance have encountered significant obstacles. However, he quickly dismissed suggestions that the project was falling apart, insisting that political disagreements are normal in every democracy. According to him, difficult negotiations do not necessarily signal failure. Instead, they often represent the complicated process of bringing together people with different interests in pursuit of a common political objective. To reinforce his argument, Galadima reached beyond Nigeria's borders and referenced international diplomacy. He pointed to situations where countries involved in serious conflicts continued negotiating despite years of hostility. His message was straightforward. Politics is built on dialogue, compromise, and persistence, not on abandoning discussions whenever disagreements emerge. In his view, anyone expecting a major political coalition to form without resistance simply does not understand how politics works. Every meaningful alliance faces moments of uncertainty before reaching common ground. However, it was Galadima's defense of Peter Obi that immediately captured national attention and triggered fierce reactions. He challenged those who repeatedly invoke the 1966 military coup whenever Obi's name entered political discussions. Galadima argued that such accusations are fundamentally unfair because they align personal responsibility to someone who neither participated in nor influenced those historic events. He questioned the logic behind blaming an individual simply because he belongs to the same ethnic group as some of the actors involved decades ago. Then came the question that has since dominated political conversations across social media and television debates. How old was Peter Obi in 1966? Galadima asked. It was more than a question. It was a direct challenge to a narrative that has persisted for years. His argument was that political campaigns should be based on competence, ideas, leadership, and accountability, not on inherited blame. If today's politicians are condemned for events that occurred long before they had any public role, where does such reasoning end? Can any nation truly move forward while continually judging citizens by history they neither wrote nor controlled? Galadima strengthened his case by referring to the late Biafran leader, Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu. He reminded viewers that after the Nigerian Civil War, Ojukwu was eventually pardoned, returned to Nigeria, and later participated in democratic politics. His point was not to compare individuals directly, but to illustrate that reconciliation has always been part of Nigeria's national journey. If a country emerging from civil war could eventually embrace dialogue and political participation, Galadima suggested that today's political debates should also reflect that same spirit of reconciliation rather than perpetual division. The NDC chieftain also challenged what he described as selective interpretations of Nigeria's history. He acknowledged that northern political leaders were among those killed during the 1966 coup, but argued that the violence that followed also claimed the lives of countless innocent Igbo citizens. According to him, reducing such a complex national tragedy to a one-sided narrative ignores the suffering experienced by multiple communities. His comments have reignited an old debate about whether Nigerians truly understand the full history of the crisis or whether political interests continue to shape how the history is remembered. To illustrate how deeply those historical wounds remain, Galadima shared a personal story involving his friend, Dr. D.N. Okechukwu, who reportedly authored a book on the 1966 coup. According to Galadima, the author once attempted to meet a respected northern leader but was initially rejected because lingering emotions surrounding the events of 1966 remained unresolved. The anecdote highlighted just how powerfully history continues to influence present-day relationships and political perceptions. More than half a century later, old wounds still appear capable of shaping modern political conversations. Supporters of Galadima's position argue that Nigeria cannot build genuine national unity if every generation is forced to answer for decisions made by previous ones. They believe democracy requires voters to evaluate candidates based on their politics, experience, integrity, and vision for the future rather than ethnic identity or historical associations. In their view, continually revisiting old grievances risks trapping the country in endless cycles of suspicion while preventing meaningful conversations about pressing issues such as insecurity, inflation, unemployment, and economic growth. Critics, however, maintain that history should never be dismissed simply because it is uncomfortable. They argue that understanding the country's past is essential for preventing similar mistakes in the future. While acknowledging Galadima's call for reconciliation, some insist that accountability and historical truth remain equally important. For them, remembering history and promoting national unity are not mutually exclusive objectives. Instead, they believe both must coexist if lasting peace is to be achieved. Galadima, nevertheless, remained firm in his position. He insisted that reconciliation requires courage, it requires forgiveness, and a willingness to move beyond inherited divisions. According to him, constantly aligning collective blame to entire ethnic groups weaken national cohesion and distracts from the real challenges confronting ordinary Nigerians. His comments have once again placed questions of identity, history, and political responsibility at the center of national discourse. Whether Nigerians agree with Galadima or strongly disagree with him, one reality cannot be ignored. His interview has reopened one of the country's most emotionally charged political debates. As conversations continue over possible opposition alliances and the future direction of Nigeria's politics, the bigger question may no longer be about Peter Obi alone. It may instead be about whether Nigeria is finally prepared to judge their leaders by their present record, or whether the shadows of history will continue to shape the nation's political future for generations to come. For more updates and in-depth analysis, stay with us on News Express. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I am Cassie Tony, and many thanks for watching.